I was pretty surprised when I opened it up.
I was pretty disappointed when I opened it up. I didn't want to break down 8 games at the beginning of the day. Four
Nah, I mean,
four
I
games
was
on
happy just
Thursday.
because yesterday left a bad taste in my mouth.
Every day's been leaving a bad taste in my mouth. I can't say the same for you, Mr. Hockey.
I'll say that's when I'm most excited. There's 10 hockey games today. There was only 2 yesterday, so I didn't play.
There you go. That should be fun. Welcome to the NBA DFS Strategy Show presented by Super Draft. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. 8 games, as I just mentioned, on this lovely Tuesday. That's going to be a fun one. It was easy to get through. Not too much really, really weird injury news, but we do have a little bit of it. I've got last night's NBA shot machine pulled up in lineup study right now. What am I getting messaged by? Yeah, just a what up message. What up, Keekster? Highest scorer last night on FanDuel, 58.4, James Harden. Nobody broke free. Only 4 guys hit 50, one of them being Colin Sexton. Rudy Gobert wasn't looking all that great, then just started sending every shot that came his way. That didn't help. I think he finished with 5 blocks. Yeah. And 2 steals. 7 stocks on FanDuel is massive. Highest owned guy on the slate, Larry Nance, 40%. For once, my essential lock button worked. 100% Larry Nance, 8.9x value on FanDuel, 43.6 fantasy points. Wasn't looking good. That first rotation, I think he bageled.
Yeah, it started out real bad. I had him. I played 5 FanDuel lineups, 8 DraftKings last night. I had him in all 5 on FanDuel, and I think like 6 or 7 of the 8 on DraftKings. And I was just like, why did I do this? Like, this isn't going to be fun, but worked out.
Did work out. Trae Young, 22 fantasy points. That didn't work out.
That did not.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, 38.5 fantasy points. That did not work out. CJ McCollum went for 55 because that's just what he does when Dame Lillard isn't healthy. Kevin Porter went for 31. That'll work. Let's see. Who else was terrible? John Collins, 18 fantasy points, 2.1x. That did not work out.
Who else was terrible? Luka, Ja,
Yeah.
Brooks.
Hold on. Let me just sort it by salary.
Right, exactly.
There were 6 guys north of 9K yesterday. Giannis went for 3.3x. James Harden went for 5.4x. Russell Westbrook went for 3.4. Luka went for 4. Trae Young went for 2.2. Hassan Whiteside 4.1. The best of those guys was barely a 5x play yesterday.
Yeah, just a really weird slate because the value did well. Like Cleveland,
Yeah.
I would have had even more Cleveland if I actually had confidence they were going to do what they did. They ran a 7-man rotation.
Yeah, who'd play every and Love did not play a ton.
Right.
Like,
yeah, he played like 32 minutes.
Right.
Everyone else played huge minutes, and yeah, like I had. Obviously, that was a possibility, but like we've seen so many teams this year where not that I expected the random end of the bench guys to get big run, but I thought they would get enough to where you got like 36 minutes from most of those guys. I wasn't expecting like 40 from almost all the starters.
Yeah, I gave, a decent chunk to Matt Mooney and Dean Wade. Like enough that I wasn't projecting everybody for 38 minutes.
Right, exactly. Enough where I got a lot of Cleveland, but I would have just played massive amounts if I'd gotten that right.
Yeah, like I didn't expect Delhi to play 29 minutes. Jetty played 39. Ultimately went for 6.5x, so it wouldn't have mattered, but it was 4% owned. Like if I knew he had 39 minutes, he probably would have been in a couple more lineups. That's for sure.
The biggest difference for me was Lofty and I talked about it on the show. I went ahead and capped my lineups with 3 Cleveland guys because I felt like from a medium projection standpoint, there was a good chance I'd be getting 4 or 5, but that it was pretty unlikely that like having 4 or 5 ended up being your best option. But if I had actually thought that they were all going to play 40 minutes, I would have been fine with like 4.
Right.
And then also, of course, it's kind of hindsight because having a ton of Cleveland guys yesterday was your best bet because every expensive player sucked. Obviously, it would have been different if you got like 70 from Luka or Giannis or something.
Yeah, barely got that if you added those idiots together. It was brutal. It's just absolutely brutal. CJ McCollum was, the guy you needed, I guess. And even still, he only went for 6x, like at 8,800. That's good. Not all that different.
And at least one on FanDuel. Didn't have him on DraftKings.
I didn't have all that much, but I mean, I had enough. Ultimately, it didn't matter at all. Just nobody was good. Nobody was good at all. I mean, top value guy, Josh Jackson, essentially unowned, only got to hit 10x. Patty Mills, unowned. Tyus Jones went for 40, unowned.
That one pissed me off because I played a ton of DJ Augustine, which was the exact same play as Tyus Jones.
Right.
Just got the wrong one. Got 23 minutes from DJ Augustine too. Like, if DJ Augustine plays 23 minutes at 3,100 against Portland 100 times, how many times does he fail? Like 3?
Yeah, not a lot, that's for sure. I think it's ridiculous. Tyus Jones had 40.7 FanDuel points. He played 19 minutes.
That's insane. I actually assumed he played more than that because I think he played the entire fourth.
He had 9 assists in 19 minutes. 4 steals.
4 steals, yeah.
So kudos to Tyus Jones. I don't know how you didn't see that one coming. And then we got to talk about the big one. Not that it mattered in the slightest. He was in 60 of 61,000 lineups. Boban, 33.4 FanDuel points. Played 22 minutes, 7 of 11 from the field, 12 boards, a steal and a block. So it went for 14 and 12 in 22 minutes. I gave him 4 minutes, I think.
It was funny because I had kind of forgotten Cauley Stein was on the team. And when I was mapping out the minutes, I was like, oh, I can finally play Boban because like the Bulls don't have anyone that's going to run pick and roll on this team really. And with Levine out. And then I was like, oh, wait, but Cauley Stein's back. So I guess I can't play Boban.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I was never.
Wish I had just forgotten.
Yeah. I mean, I was never going to give him anything resembling like I should play you minutes, but
No, like if Cauley Stein was out, I would have given him like the full backup center minutes.
Oh yeah, if Willie Cauley Stein was out, that's for sure.
So that's what I was gonna do until I remembered that Cauley Stein existed.
Yeah, I had like 4 or 6 or something left over when I was doing it, and I was just like, okay, he pops in from time to time. This is a team where it's not the worst idea. I don't know where else to give them, so here we go. And Bojan was going crazy for the Jazz. Daniel House played well.
He had me looking good on FanDuel for a bit. He was only 7%.
Yeah, same
in the monster.
I had like 25 or so, and I was pretty happy when I checked it out. I mean, on these early games, the people that were popping off, Vooch, Bojan, Nance eventually, I was just like, okay, I'm heavy. It didn't matter. Because every legitimate guy that I had sucked. I just had nothing in that mid-tier.
Nights, I don't really know which nights frustrate me more. Like the ones where the obvious guys do well, and then it's like my contrarian plays in my lineup suck, and you're kind of looking at it like, man, if this 2% guy just had a good game, I would have been looking really good. Or the ones like last night where like my terrible NBA players all smashed, and then it's like, oh, good, I got 60 combined points from Luka Doncic and DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, like probably, I'd probably prefer the former. Like winning lineup last night, Brogdon. This is Chedabisk, by the way. Brogdon, Sexton, Harden, McCollum, Josh Jackson, Kevin Porter, Kevin Love, Larry Nance, Vooch. Like, I mean, one, I'm never going to get that lineup because I also did the same thing as you. There was no chance that I was going to get 4 Cleveland Cavaliers. Yeah. So I wasn't going to hit that number.
FanDuel, I think, was a lot easier to like get good lineups on last night than DraftKings, though.
I agree with that. I mean, you needed like. Getting to Josh Jackson he was a guy that I was getting like 25% of, and I was like, no, this is, I can't. I walked it all the way back. Should have walked it all the way forward, I guess. Sexton was just going crazy. I watched a good bit of the second half of that Cavs game, just because they kept leaving all of the relevant people in the game. I thought they were going to take them out. Now everybody was still out there all the way through. Sexton was.
They were higher owned on FanDuel. The Cavs ownership on DraftKings I thought was kind of interesting, just because you got tons going to like Porter and Nance, which obviously I thought you should. But I thought it was kind of funny. Like Colin Sexton was only 10% owned. Love was only 15. Yeah. It was like everyone realized the Cavs were really good plays because all these rebounds and usage were missing. But then they decided not to roster the leading usage guy or the leading rebounder, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Just craziness all around. I did notice one other thing. I'm just going to throw this out there for right now. Giant squid. Let me filter this back out again. I believe it was this contest. Giant squid sets a 59.9 FanDuel salary cap.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I know you and I mentioned it or had briefly talked about it before, but nothing at 60K. Something to keep an eye on, people. Something to keep an eye on. Still got duped a little bit but not nearly as much as you would expect. I don't know, 10 to 15 out of the 150. But none of the 60K dupes, which are the ones that are going to get you, that's for sure. Something I want to look into further down the line, but that's a different day because today we've got 8 games to get through. And we also have the extended lock for Superdraft. So go to superdraft.io, use the promo code AWESEMO, get yourself $20 in super cash on your first $100 or more deposit. Tonight they're running the $36,000 jump shot, 7K to first. Those are both weird numbers. 7K is 7K, 3,500 entries. It's $12 to get in. Lock on Superdraft is at 7:30, so that's a 7-game slate. Live before lock tonight will be going the extra half hour. So if you want any Superdraft tips, today is the day to do it because we will be going long. I believe it's Eddie and Emac tonight. But what you should really do is just go play at Superdraft. There are decent chances for reduced rake, potentially legitimate overlay. You don't have to worry about salaries. You can play anybody you would like. Today, I highly recommend you get yourself some Zion Williamson. They are not removing that 1.55x multiplier, so I have him as the highest projected super draft guy by 6 fantasy points today. You just got to get yourself some Zion in your life, although he looks good everywhere. We will get to that. Just go to superdraft.io, use that promo code AWESEMO, get yourself $20 in super cash, and then follow that up by going to awesemo.com/join. Use the promo code NBA Strategy, one big word, and get yourself 50% off your first week of Awesemo Plus content. And we are starting out with a real disgusting game that unfortunately we have to talk about because it's mildly important. Are you ready? Because I'm not.
Nope.
This is gross. Let me grab ownership.
Finished off yesterday talking about the Cavs and get to open up today talking about the Spurs. This is fun.
Yeah. It turns out talking about the Cavs was the best thing you could have done.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a sign that this steaming heap is going to be what we need. So, Charlotte Hornets, San Antonio Spurs. I don't know if this is the right total because there were a lot of games that didn't have totals when I woke up this morning. So let me double check my lines here. And
215?
Yeah, I'm close enough. Ooh, 211. Down to 211 and a half. So I'm just going to take a rip through here. The Brooklyn line is up to 9. I had 7.5, so that's different. Minnesota and the Pels is fine. Clippers 3 and 226 is fine. Golden State and Denver up to 15.5 now. That is going to be a brutal beating you would expect. 4 and 222 on Toronto. Okay, this is the one I didn't have. Lakers 12.5 point favorites, 220. Basically nailed it. Wizards and Kings 233, nailed it. All right, let's do this. 107 implied total for the San Antonio Spurs, 104.5 for the Hornets. So Spurs are 2.5 point favorites in Charlotte. Not expected to see LaMarcus Aldridge again today. Trey Lyles just playing monster minutes. Not entirely sure how to project him for 36, but it feels like that's what I'm supposed to do. But let's start San Antonio. I think the guy that is the best play here is going to be DeMar DeRozan. 8K on FanDuel, 7,400 on DraftKings. I'm going to be at least mildly interested in DeJounte Murray and Trey Lyles. Rudy Gay and Patty Mills are on the peripheral for DraftKings player pools for me. Talk about San Antonio. Start with DeRozan if you like him. Start with somebody else if you prefer someone else.
No, DeRozan's the one that stands out the most. He's been disappointing the last couple of games without Aldridge, but those were games against Orlando and against Indiana. It's, once again, a really, really slow game here against Charlotte. So that's the negative, but nowhere near as good defensively as the Magic or the Pacers are. You get a bump in usage as you would expect without Aldridge on the floor. You're still getting big minutes. DeRozan played like 38 last night. Typically, you're going to get 34, 35. So the only negative is the pace of this game, but I think that he should be able to be more efficient than he was against the Pacers or the Magic. And the main thing is just that the salary hasn't moved. There's no real question. Like if he happened to have good games his last couple times out and was playing again without Aldridge, you'd be looking at like an $8,500 price tag. The only thing keeping the salary down is that he hasn't played well in the last 2 games, which obviously has no bearing on this game. So I think he's very clearly underpriced. He's someone that I'll be going right back to today, and maybe regretting it again, but I'm fine with it at that price.
Murray is a guy that shows up for me pretty regularly. By the way, DeMar DeRozan, 23% owned on FanDuel, 28 on DraftKings. Both of those things seem perfectly reasonable. Trey Lyles, 5,200 on DK. I don't see a way to get away from him. 21% ownership on DraftKings right now. How many minutes does this dude play today?
I, like, I don't know.
In the 30s is like, I can't even say that it's 100% that happens.
Right. Like you would think. I mean, I'm going to project him for like 32 or 34 or somewhere in there.
Right.
Because he's played 40 and 36 in the last 2 games. But it's not like the thing is, well, for one, we know that Pop is willing to vary his rotations from game to game.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that says Trey Lyles has to play big minutes.
Yeah.
There's nothing like unique about his skill set that you need against Charlotte that other guys can't do. So you're guessing based on the way the rotations have run previously, which is basically all that you can do. But that's why I think that it's still there's just still like downside risk here because it's different than other situations where a key guy is out and the guy filling in for him very clearly needs to play more minutes than normal.
I'm with you. And it's Pop. Like Trey Lyles can play 24 minutes and they split 48 minutes of center minutes of Drew Eubanks and Chimezie Metu. And it's just like, okay, cool. Thanks, Spurs. I don't even know if Metu's healthy or anything or with the team, but
It's I think Luka's the other guy.
Who? Oh, Lucas Semanchik or something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
Either way. Or Quindari Witherspoon. That's a guy that's played in the past 30 days. Keldon Johnson. You never know. Like I don't trust it. But at the same time, I don't see a reason. Like I gave Trey Lyles 31 minutes. I feel like I'm wildly underrepresenting him, but he's already ranked 15th for me on DK if I give him those minutes.
So like last night, Lyles plays 37, Gay plays 26, Walker plays 20, Bellinelli plays 6. If on the show tomorrow you say that Gay played 26 again, Walker played 28, and Bellinelli played 16, and all, like, and 10 minutes went from Lyles to those guys, and Lyles only played 26, would you be surprised?
Not in the slightest.
Right. Not saying that's going to happen,
no.
and that's not how you should project it, but that's kind of just the point is that there's a bunch of guys that Pop can just say, like, hey, you go play.
So 23% owned on FanDuel, 21 on DraftKings. That seem about right for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really bad front court. He should be able to get tons of rebounds. He's productive if he gets the minutes. The salary isn't, too expensive.
Anything else you like from the Spurs here? Obviously, major pace down matchup against Charlotte.
You mentioned Murray. I think he's reasonable. Derek White only played about 22 minutes yesterday. I'm monitoring his minutes just because DeJounte Murray's talked about wanting to play alongside him more, and we haven't really. That's been the thing that's kept White from getting more minutes this year. So far, Pop still hasn't really been doing it, so it's tough to project him for a lot of minutes, but at least something to keep an eye on.
DeRozan, your favorite play here?
Yeah, no question.
Okay. Now, on the Charlotte side, we're not going to have Devontae Graham today. He's going to be sitting out. Let me get depth chart back up here because it's relevant for Charlotte. Obviously, we don't have Malik Monk. Unfortunately, I think we got to play a couple dudes from the Hornets. Now, Rozier, 31% owned on FanDuel, 25 on DraftKings. He is $20 on Yahoo. He's my favorite play of the day right now. I gave him 36 minutes. He's been god-awful as of late. 0.73 FanDuel points per minute over his last 30 days. Just terrible, but the price is down because of it, so I'm going to be getting to a lot of Terry Rozier. I expect to be getting into a decent amount of Miles Bridges. PJ Washington is more in play for me on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel, and then we start playing the lottery of which center is it going to be? Which Martin is it going to be? I don't really know the answers to some of those questions, but I know that I like Rozier and Bridges. How do you feel at the top?
Yeah, really like Rozier. You mentioned the minutes. They should obviously be there. San Antonio is not a good team defensively, but without Graham on the floor, 25.4% usage rate for Rozier this year. The assist percentage jumps up to 31%, whereas when he's playing with Graham, you're looking at 18, 19%. So a big difference there. So I think that Rozier does look like a really, really good play. Obviously, he's a flawed player, and it can go poorly. But I do think it's a better matchup than, say, last time where he was going up against Indiana, and I think it was Indiana. Whoever it was a tough matchup, and he was disappointing. But better matchup here against San Antonio. So he looks like the top guy for me from Charlotte. With you on Bridges being perfectly fine as a forward play. His usage has been up recently anyway. Now you take Graham off the floor, which opens up a little bit more. PJ Washington typically is going to play, low to mid 30s and should be a little bit more productive without Graham as well.
This one's so gross. It's just such a slow game. Third lowest implied total for the Hornets on the slate. Are you going to get to one of the Martins or one of the centers? Or, I don't know. So, how many minutes does Nick Batum play today?
0.
You think?
I'm pretty sure he DNP'd even the last time Graham sat.
Last time Graham sat, Monk was healthy.
Oh, good call, yeah.
I think they have to dust him off, or someone Dwayne Bacon is with the G League affiliate, apparently by request, not because they sent him there.
It's like when you're a kid and they're like, hey, do you want to be the guy on the travel team that sits on the bench and never plays, or do you want to play with your friends?
Yeah. I'll play with my friends. Devontae Graham, not in the lineup. Malik Monk, not in the lineup. Cody Zeller, also not in the lineup, but that's neither here nor there. It's either going to be Joe Cheely, which I am giving minutes to, but doesn't appear that Dwayne Bacon is around. So we're looking at an 8-man rotation. 9 if they use Cheely, 10 if Batum is in. I think that Batum plays here because they just don't have a choice. Otherwise, they're running people into the ground.
Yeah, not enough that it matters, though.
No, I'm not trying to play him.
Also worth mentioning, because I had obviously forgotten, but without Graham or Monk on the floor, 329 minutes for Terry Rozier this year, 26.9% usage, 32.8% assist percentage. So looks even better.
Okay. Favorite play in this game?
DeMar Rozier. DeRozan 1, Rozier 2.
Okay.
Everything else, a lot of plays look good beyond those two, but more like secondary or lineup filler plays.
I would go Rozier 1, DeMar 2, but I think those are pretty clearly the top two.
How different is their pricing on FanDuel? Because on DraftKings it's only $1,200 and
$2,300.
Okay, yeah, that makes a bigger difference.
Yeah.
DraftKings, I say DeRozan because for one, he's only like $1,300 more, but also he has the guard forward eligibility, which makes it really easy to get him in the lineups. Yeah,
on FanDuel, I don't think it's a question. That's one's $8K, the other is $5,700.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I think that Terry Rozier sucks too, but their raw talents are generally closer than where they've been recently. All right, let's move on. Boston Celtics, Brooklyn Nets. Celtics are 9-point favorites at home. Looks like Kemba Walker is going to be back for this one, although Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart, I think those are the two off the top of my head. Yes, are both questionable. I have them in for right now. So let's start on the Boston side. Mild pace up spot for them. I have zero interest in Jason Tatum at 9,400 on FanDuel and 9,600 on DK, although he obviously has been great as of late. I think Kemba looks pretty good, or at least playable at 6,600 on FanDuel. Don't really need him on DK. I don't really need anybody on this squad from on DraftKings outside of Daniel Tice. But Gordon Hayward and Jaylen Brown, I think, are both still viable mid-6 price tags on FanDuel. You think you're getting to Boston?
I think a lot depends on Tatum, because if Kemba's in, Tatum's in, Smart is in, then you basically have a lot of overpriced guys because their salaries came up as a result of Kemba being out. If Tatum is out, though, obviously it opens up a lot of minutes. It opens up a lot of usage. If Smart's out, it opens up minutes too, but it's not as big a deal because you're talking about, 18% usage guy as opposed to Tatum. Kemba's played 4 games without Tatum this year. He has a 32% usage rate. There would be an increase in usage for Jaylen and for Hayward too. So if Tatum's out, I think that all of Brown, Hayward, and Kemba look good. If Tatum's in, I'm not really interested in any of it.
Okay. Do you think that Kemba's going to be limited today?
He's been out since...
I gave him 30 minutes for reference.
What'd you say?
I gave him 30 minutes just for reference.
So that's what I probably would go with. I don't expect that they're rushing him back.
No.
I think when he comes back, he's
been out for 5 games.
Yeah. The Roto World blurb says the plan or the J King from The Athletic says Kemba Walker went through practice yesterday, and the plan is for him to be limited in a return today.
Right. Okay.
I don't know what that means, but I would guess something like 28 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
I'm trying to see the last time he missed. So he didn't play any games from January 30th to February 7th.
Came back and played 30.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, played 30. I think he had one other absence this year. Maybe not.
Chat,
Yeah,
I
that's not.
appreciate you, but just saying that he's on a minutes limit isn't information.
Right. Like if Kemba wasn't on a minutes limit and Jason Tatum was out, I would have him at like 38 minutes.
Right. We need to know what that minutes limit is. Just being on a minutes limit doesn't really do me any good.
Other than telling me not to project him for 36 minutes.
Yeah. I think he's still in play on FanDuel at 6,600. It's not appealing, and if Tatum is out, then I don't have any problem with it at all.
Yeah, 1.24 DraftKings points per minute without Tatum on the floor this year. So, I mean, it would basically, I think, make 28 minutes the kind of break-even point.
Yeah.
Because that would put him, he's 7,300 on DraftKings. If you took that average production, which I think is reasonable because Brooklyn plays at a reasonable pace, but they're also a pretty solid defense, that would give you like 35 DraftKings points. So I think if he can play more than 28 minutes, he starts to become more valuable. The other thing with the minutes limit, though, obviously, is that it does kind of lop off like the top end outcomes.
Thoughts on Tice? He's the only guy that I like on DK.
I like him. 5,500's pretty solid. I think that out of their centers, though, I'd rather go with Enes Kanter.
Really?
He's only 3,600. It's a Brooklyn team that runs two centers for 48 minutes, typically.
Let me look at Kanter's recent run. The old DNP on Saturday, right?
Yeah, but that was against Houston.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he can't be out there. That's for sure. I mean, I see no reason that he can't be out there. That's for sure. I'm not sure that I prefer him.
The only thing that concerns me is that Robert Williams is back too.
Time Lord, dusting him off.
So there's a chance. There's a chance that you get back to what you were seeing earlier in this year, where it's like 24, 12, and 12 for Tice, Kanter, and Williams.
That's certainly something to keep an eye. I mean, I think I'd be surprised if they started cutting Tice's minutes. He's been so good.
He's been playing really well.
Yeah. He makes a lot work. He's improved dramatically defensively, too.
Right. Yeah, he's like, I mean, from the limited amount that I pay attention to actual basketball, he seems good.
Go Daniel Tice. I've got my eye on him. I want to keep a close eye on that front court, though. On the Brooklyn side, Spencer Dinwiddie at 12 is in double digits in ownership on FanDuel and DK. Jared Allen got to 12% on FanDuel. No one else in double digits. Dinwiddie is the only guy from the Nets that makes my player pool, at least on DK. Dinwiddie, LeVert, and Allen are all there on FanDuel, but I'm not so sure that I want a lot of Brooklyn outside of Dinwiddie and LeVert on FanDuel. Dinwiddie is my number 5 point guard, LeVert my number 6 shooting guard.
I like LeVert's salary on DraftKings. He's plummeted all the way back to 7,200. He had gotten up to like 8,300 a game or two ago. Obviously hasn't played as well, but he's leading the team in usage by a wide margin without Kyrie. He's at about 31 or 32% since Kyrie went down at the beginning of January. The assists are there because he's having his minutes staggered with Dinwiddie. Typically, you're getting around 34 minutes in competitive games. So, not a core play. Like, I still would rather get DeMar DeRozan, for example, at, for $200 more. But I think that there's a good chance LeVert is really low owned again today, and he does give you massive, massive upside at that price.
Yeah, I see like the $6,300 tag on FanDuel is very appealing to me on LeVert. A bit less so on. So do you prefer LeVert to Dinwiddie on DraftKings?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's just a better per minute guy. Higher usage.
Yeah, I might have to look at these projections because I have Dinwiddie like blowing this out of the water. I think I have his usage rate way too high. Yeah, that needs to get dialed back.
You need to, probably what it is there's a drastic difference when Kyrie is out with LeVert in versus when they're both out.
I should have noticed it. So I have something set up that like after I make rates tweaks, it'll highlight a player's name if they're like wildly different on a per minute basis than where like my just normal. This is what this guy basically averages on fantasy points. And Dinwiddie's name was the only one that was highlighted, and I didn't catch it. So I had him at like 1.25 fantasy points per minute for this game, which is going to make Dinwiddie pop.
Yeah. So Levert's played 16 games. Dinwiddie's played 17 since Kyrie's most recent injury. Levert has a 31.6% usage percentage and a 26.5 or 26.3% assist percentage. Dinwiddie's at 27.4 and 38.5. So 12 points higher on the assists, 4 points lower on the usage. The per minute production has been about the same.
Yeah, I've got them significantly closer now. And I do have Dinwiddie as like a slightly better player in the baseline. So while I do have Dinwiddie projected over Karis LeVert, it's not nearly as dramatic as it was before. I don't get the sense that I'm going to have anybody from Brooklyn on DraftKings, and this will mostly be a 2-horse race on FanDuel. Favorite play in this game for you on DK? Because DK looks a lot different to me.
Yeah, and just to, I guess, clarify the LeVert Dinwiddie question for me, because I updated while you were talking. They're basically the same. Like Dinwiddie's $300 more. I have Dinwiddie at 37.7. I have LeVert at 36.7. So, like, basically the same play.
Agreed.
But they look like the two best options on DraftKings to me. Neither one a priority again, but they both work as tournament pivots because they do give you a really high upside at their price point. Beyond that, I mean, you're getting the center minute split between Allen and Jordan. I think that with it being an 8-game slate, you're going to be able to find center options that look a little bit better. I'm not planning on getting to much Harris, Prince, Temple, just, low probability guys there.
Sure. Well, this is like the opposite of the Hornets Spurs game, which I thought we were getting yesterday in Grizzlies Hawks, and they went out and screwed the pooch. So let's see how this one looks. New Orleans Pelicans, Minnesota Timberwolves. Pels are 11.5-point favorites at home. This is a massive pace-up spot for the Pels. Minnesota's defense stinks. No JJ Redick, so the rotation for the Pelicans is pretty tight right now. I love so much here, and so does the public. Drew Holiday in the 20s in ownership. Zion just shy of 20% on both sides. Brandon Ingram, 34% owned. Lonzo, 20% owned. Derek Favors, just shy of 20%. You got to play Zion on SuperDraft at 1.55x. I think you got to play Drew Holiday as well, 1.35x. Holiday and Ingram both look fantastic on Yahoo, $31 and $32 respectively. The floor is yours. Go whatever direction you want for the Pelicans because I think they look amazing.
Yeah, I think they do too. All right. So one thing to point out, just because I got a surprising amount of pushback to a tweet last night, the total in these games is important, not because of the actual like total or the team totals or whatever. Like I understand there's a difference between player production and team totals, but when the Vegas total is really high, like it is tonight with like a 247 total in this one, it's typically because there's a fast pace, there's bad defenses, combination of both, more possessions, all of that, which is going to lead to higher projections for players. So that's why we talk about totals. It's kind of just an abbreviated, quicker way to say that there's going to be a lot of possessions and a lot of bad defense in this game. Yeah. So, moving on from that, I think that the salaries are really, really nice on the Pels side. Redick being out, I was surprised Hart still only played 22 minutes last game against the Lakers. You actually had Derek Favors close that game. I don't know that he closes this one. I think you could see Hart close over him. I think a decent rule that you could consider is only having one of Hart or Favors, because I think that one of them probably plays like 24 minutes. The other one probably plays like 28. But beyond those guys, I mean, Brandon Ingram, really affordable in a good spot, has been the second highest usage guy since Zion came back. Zion's really affordable. He's been the highest usage guy since he came back. So both of those guys look great. Still big minutes for Holiday and Ball. I think that you can make very strong arguments for all six of Zion, Ingram, Drew, Ball, Favors, and Hart.
These guys look fantastic. It's really hard to get away from a game like this. Who is your favorite play on DraftKings right now?
Zion.
Okay. I think mine might be Drew. Zion, he and Zion are barely separated. I just know that if both of those guys are 20% owned and Brandon Ingram is 35%, I'm going to slightly prefer those other two because I have them all projected in like the mid 40s and I just want a piece of this. On FanDuel, so I've got Drew, Zion, and Brandon Ingram all in the top 6 on DK. Lonzo gets the 12. Drew is my number 1 shooting guard on FanDuel. Brandon Ingram, my number 1 small forward. Zion, my number 2 power forward. Derek Favors, I have 3rd at his position. Even Lonzo gets the 6th. I love all 5 of these guys. I can't imagine having a lineup that doesn't have a Pelican in it.
Right. You mentioned the ownership with Ingram. I think he's a great play.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird to me, and maybe it'll change throughout the day, that he's that much higher owned, because right now I have him and Zion projected really similarly.
Same.
You obviously could get more minutes for Ingram. Like, that was the big difference last game, was you got 39 for Ingram, you got 33 for Zion. If I give Zion 32 and I give Ingram 36, it puts Ingram, a couple of points ahead. But I really don't think that there should be much of an ownership difference between Ingram and Zion.
I'm with you. This Pels team's fun. Anybody, do you get to Josh Hart or Melly or anything, do you think?
I think you can definitely get to Josh Hart. We have seen, at times this year that he's plays big minutes. We've seen him close over Derek Favors a lot. This is like in the Lakers game, Favors closed, but the Lakers had JaVale McGee in their closing lineup. Now you're going to get Naz Reid or James Johnson for Minnesota. Favors certainly could be out there, and he should be very productive when he is on the floor, but there's no real reason that the Pels can't close with Zion at the 5 either. So you could see a few extra minutes for Josh Hart. I think that's if he ends up not having a lot of ownership, that's a pretty decent value to take a shot on. Right now, we only have him at 1.5% on DraftKings. You saw Etuan Moore soak up most of JJ Redick's minutes last game. He played about 16 minutes. So you didn't see Redick's minutes go to Hart, but the fact that he, could go back into the closing lineup, there's at least still some minutes upside there.
Favors could really eat up Naz Reid.
Favors should go absolutely nuts for every minute he's on the floor.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is actually like a decent spot for Jahlil Okafor, but there's no reason to play him.
Right. Favors, he's not going to get usage, but the rebounding and, putbacks and all that should certainly be there.
Absolutely. You mentioned the Hart and Favors rule. Is there anything else you would set for the Pelicans?
No.
I didn't think so.
And I don't even think you have to set that one, because they're both cheap. Like, if you get 24 minutes from Hart and you get, say, 26 from Favors, there's still a pretty decent chance that they do fine.
You're also not going to get that many lineups with Derek Favors and Josh Hart, even in a crunch.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like they both project really, really well. They both project as decent options, so it's pretty unlikely you're getting a lot of them together anyway.
Yeah. There's no way to avoid it. The Pelicans are the best spot today. They're going to garner ownership, but this is the good kind of chalk. Is there anybody you expect to be over-owned? I know that's a weird question to ask, but do you see anybody from the Pelicans being like, that's going to be problematic?
No, the only thing, I would point out the Ingram ownership, and it's not that I think 33% is too high on Ingram, because I think that he's one of the best plays on the slate. I don't think he should be double the ownership of Zion.
So more from a relative perspective than
exactly.
anything else. Okay.
Realistically, what I probably just do is play Ingram and Zion together and get, around the field or higher on Ingram and get way higher on Zion.
Yeah. Now,
then tweet about Zion 20 minutes into the game about how bad he is and make everyone mad.
Can't wait. Minnesota also, this is going to be a track meet. 118 implied total is the 3rd highest on the slate. Pelicans defense isn't anything to write home about. I like quite a few guys here. D'Angelo Russell on FanDuel is 8,500. That stands out to me. He's ranked 27th for me on DK. I guess I like Malik Beasley a little bit more on DraftKings at 6K. I think Wancho looks pretty good on FanDuel, 4,800, decent filler, not getting any ownership as of right now. Josh Okogie picking up a little bit of ownership. He's not fun to roster, but been picking it up a little bit as of late. Naz Reid, because of the position, works okay on FanDuel. Talk to me a little bit about how you feel for the Minnesota side of this one.
Should be, a really appealing spot for them too. The pricing, they're not quite as appealing as the Pels, just because you don't have the same type of players as far as production goes or minutes going to them. But Russell and Beasley both, I think, look really good. You should get 34 plus minutes from both. You've got a usage rate around 24% for Beasley in the games that he's played with Russell since the trades. Russell obviously gets tons of offensive opportunities. His salary is up there on DraftKings at 9K. It's not that I think 9K is too expensive for Russell in a vacuum. It's just that I think relative to a lot of other guys, like in tournaments where you're looking at ceilings, is paying, and these are just the first two that came to mind because we just talked about them, but is paying 9K for Russell and sacrificing that $1,800 really putting more upside into your lineup than going to like Karis LeVert or Spencer Dinwiddie, who are lower probability, lower medium projection guys, but give you very similar upside and are a lot less expensive. I'm not really sure, especially if there's more ownership going to Russell. So I think that Beasley's price is a little bit more favorable than Russell's on DraftKings.
Same. Feel free to fire up Russell on SuperDraft, though. 1.3x multiplier. I've got him in at 58 SuperDraft points, at which point he would rank as my third best play on SuperDraft for today. How do you feel about the also rans? Do you get to like Naz Reid or James Johnson, Okogie, Jarrett Culver, any of these goons? Jake Layman finally make an appearance at the flat minimum?
Not with a lot of frequency, I don't think. I mean, I just think the salaries on them are pretty much where they should be. Naz Reid should play 26 to 28 minutes if he can not foul people, which is a big if. But if that's the case at 5,200, he's decent. But like on DraftKings, he's a center. I think on FanDuel, he's a power forward, which makes him better. But kind of a marginal play for me on DraftKings at 5,200 at center. Hernangomez typically is going to play around 30 minutes. Only played 20 or played 28 last game, but his salaries come up as well. Unlike the Pels, I think that it's pretty much just focusing on Russell and Beasley for me.
Okay, I don't disagree with you on DK. On FanDuel, just because of the way positions work, Okogie and Hernangomez are a little bit more in play for me. Favorite play in this game?
Ingram/Zion.
Okay. Oklahoma City Thunder, LA Clippers. Clippers 3-point favorites in OKC. Revenge narrative for Chris Paul. Revenge narrative for Paul George. No, yeah. Revenge narrative for, I don't know, there's probably more guys.
Shea.
Yeah, Shea. Whatever. Gallo was on the Clips, right?
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of revenge going on here. Start on the OKC side. I mean, we pretty much know who's viable to roster. On DK, I would say that I prefer Gallinari more than anyone else. 5,900 seems just too cheap. I like him quite a bit on FanDuel. Nobody breaking free big time. Like Chris Paul and Gallo both ranked 4th at their position. Adams 5th, Shea 6th, Schroeder 9th. So I'm going to get to those guys. They're all in like the teens in ownership. All of it makes sense. Gallo getting that ownership on DraftKings at 20%. I do have a little bit of interest in Nerlens Noel at 3,300 just because if anything happens to Steven Adams, Noel is the first man up.
I really wish they would just change the salary.
You and me both. I'm tired of him showing up as like a value play that I have to prepare for. Right. Otherwise, I'll get 30% of him to fill in lineups, and it's just because there's like he doesn't have that sort of right tail, but neither here nor there. Talk to me about how you feel on the Thunder. Who stands out to you?
I don't think any one guy stands out as a great play in the context of the slate, but I think that they have 6 guys that look like viable options to fill out lineups, basically. Like, there's nobody that on DraftKings is overpriced out of their main 6 guys, including Noel. But like Gallo at 5,900, he's going to be a solid medium projection, but we know that he doesn't really have a ceiling that is worth mentioning. Chris Paul, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Schroeder, I think all project as, good options, but there's just kind of better guys at their price points that I like a little bit more. Steven Adams, his salary came down a little bit to 6,200. Typically you're getting around 30 minutes from him, but overall it's not that appealing of a matchup. The Clippers obviously are really good defensively. And I think that there's just better options at everyone's positions and price points. So it's more of, contrarian plays to make your lineup unique or to fill out a lineup than guys that are priorities.
First of all, calm down in YouTube chat, jack off. And I'm not just calling you a jack off. That's actually what your YouTube name is. I didn't welch on the mustache bet. My name's not Miles. I'm shaving on Thursday. We talked about it on the show yesterday. It'll be debuted for my show with Laffy on Friday. I would have liked to do it this past weekend, but the place that I'm going to get a shave wasn't able to take me until Thursday since I'm looking to get pampered for this. Have to.
Wait, you don't just shave your own mustache?
I have not shaved my beard off in like 7 years. So I'm going in and getting the hot towel, warm lather, straight razor treatment to just like get it all done. I mean, normally I would just bzz, but for the pageantry of all of this, I'm going in and getting like a legit shave. Have you ever gotten like a legitimate shave?
No.
From what I understand, it's incredible.
Never has crossed my mind.
I guess you should. I have never done this either, but from what I understand, like a straight razor shave is like a really great experience. Nice warm lather, badger hair brush.
See, whenever I'm like at a barbershop and see that listed, I'm always really confused. Like, why is shave an option that people would buy?
I think it just feels great.
Fair.
I'll let you know. Hot towel razor edge is everything. Oh man, Josh, it's going to change your life. Yeah. I think you're missing out. Josh bougie. No, Josh is not. I would never do this if it wasn't for the bet. Can we get a sensory deprivation tank update? That's from EMAC. Yeah, so I forgot that I had a subscription. Recently canceled. Turns out I have 18 in the bank that I'm allowed to use over the next 6 months. So I'm going to be sitting in pure darkness a lot in the near future.
Wait, what?
The float tank, isolation tanks. I was doing that for a hot minute. Get into a tank of Epsom salt water, pure darkness. No.
Oh yeah, someone at the bar was telling me about that the other day.
Fantastic, highly recommended.
But yeah, I don't know. Like even like I can't get myself to get my hair cut more than like twice a month. I just wear hats instead. I can't imagine like leaving my apartment to go shave.
So apparently the offer that we put in on the other house, they took, and I didn't expect that because we're kind of dicks about it. But cool,
nice,
cool. Anyway, let's get back to this one. Oklahoma City. God, we really got off track there, thanks to me. What else is new on this show? It's like the same story for me for the Thunder every day. No one ever looks like somebody I really want a lot of. Everybody's like a 10 to 15% guy. So like I end up with one Thunder guy everywhere. They're all the same dudes. It's never anybody else. There's never any legitimate value. It's just like these are a bunch of guys that are going to score between 35 and 45 fantasy points. They're like they're like if a cash lineup came to life.
Pretty much, yeah.
I just like I can't highly recommend
like until
anything.
one of them is out.
Right. That's the only way. But they're always like good. They're all like 1 to 1.2 fantasy point per minute guys, depending on who it is. It's just weird.
Right. They're all like Gallinari, Paul, Gilgeous-Alexander, Schroeder. They're all like 24 to 30 or 24 to 28% usage guys. Adams doesn't get usage, but he gets rebounds, so he still gets his. And they're all priced exactly where they should be almost every slate.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like they have like locked in prices.
Well, they've been healthy like the entire season too.
Yeah, that's
almost.
It. I really wish they would have tried to get a guy at the deadline. Like no one wants to play Oklahoma City in the playoffs if they get an additional body. Like someone to be Terrence Ferguson.
This is basically like their tank team, but they're just too good, right?
Yeah, basically. Like who could they have gotten? Like I don't know. Someone to take the Terrence Ferguson minutes.
Marcus Morris?
Sure. Like, no one wants a part of that. They could beat most teams in the, like, I think they could beat the Rockets, the Nuggets, whatever. I don't think they beat
You're talking about, like, in a game.
No, like, in a series. If they had one additional guy, I would not be shocked that Oklahoma City beat anybody but the Lakers or Clippers in the first round series.
I mean, it would be a huge upset against the Nuggets or the Rockets.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't think it's as big as you think it is.
I think they're both really, really good teams.
Oh, for the record, I'm talking about if they were able to acquire like a guy to fill in these minutes, not like as presently constituted. If they did get a Marcus Morris or someone of that ilk where you don't have to play Abdel Nader and Terrence Ferguson 40 minutes.
Sure. You forgot about Lou Dort.
or Lou Dort. Let's go to those Clippers. Only Kawhi Leonard on FanDuel is in double digits in ownership. That's 15%. I don't have a Clipper in my DraftKings player pool, and Paul George is the highest ranked guy at a position, which would be 7th on FanDuel at 6,800. You like the Clippers here at all?
I like Paul George's salary on DraftKings at 7,100.
Sure.
But it's just, I mean, it's real tough because they're fully healthy now. Obviously, Kawhi and George both lose some production playing alongside each other. You have, Lou Williams, that is another high usage guy that, obviously loses usage when everyone's healthy. It's just real tough to prioritize anything here. 7,100 for George, I think, is the salary that stands out a little bit just because his salary is depressed because he's been on a minutes limit that is slowly creeping back up. He played 30.1 minutes against Philly last game. If you potentially get to like 32 minutes of Paul George at 7,100, he's certainly a decent play. It's not like it would be shocking if Kawhi beats a $9,200 salary, but it's just really, really tough to prioritize anything here because everyone being healthy cuts usage down. It takes minutes away. Like, you're not seeing quite as many minutes for Kawhi. He played, 34 minutes against Philly, whereas in some prior games you were getting 36, 37. So I think it's just a really unappealing team right now until someone rests.
Who is your most exposed player in this game on DraftKings today?
Noel.
Okay. I've figured it either him or Gallo, maybe.
Yeah.
This is not an appealing fantasy game. I'd like to watch it. I'll bounce between
this is
Pels
an example
and
of a game.
This one.
This is an example of a game where team total isn't everything, or game total. Like, it's a 226 total, but there's a million different guys on both teams that produce.
Yeah. Yeah, there are 10 legitimate NBA players in the Clippers lineup. Like, everybody that plays, they are legitimate rotation players everywhere and starters for a large majority of the team. Like, Reggie Jackson is a starter in the NBA on a third of the teams in the NBA, and he's like, probably shouldn't get a single minute for the Clippers. Clippers are deep, man. Real deep. All right, well, we are at the midway.
Who wins, Clippers or Lakers?
We're talking like, who do I expect to make the Western, or to make the finals?
Yeah.
Well, it all comes down to that home court advantage. I was about to look that shit up. I was going to be going to 538, like, all right, like, who gets home court? I was like, you stupid asshole. It's the same damn place.
So it's really 7 road games for the Clippers.
That's true. Yeah, they got to play at the Forum or something. Lakers.
I'd take the Clips, but
I'm worried about Paul George. And at that point, I'm willing to bet more on LeBron and AD as a twosome than Kawhi with whatever Paul George is.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because, like, I'm not so sure. Like, I don't think Montrezl Harrell is made for the playoffs. I don't entirely think that Lou Williams is made for the playoffs, although against the Lakers, it's a little bit better.
I just think the Clippers bench is going to beat the hell out of the, whatever. I mean, obviously you're getting like 40 plus minutes from LeBron and Davis anyway, but
that's why I don't think it matters as much.
They're just so much deeper.
Look,
with like good players though.
It's why I really like the potential of whoever comes out of the East, specifically Milwaukee, because if we do get a Lakers Clips series in like a Western Conference Finals, you have to assume that is just a bloodbath, and it's going to take LeBron going 40 minutes a game, and like, it's going to take a lot out of them.
Yeah, that's true. I kind of feel like that for every series with the Lakers.
It's true.
Like, they're a bad team except for LeBron and Davis.
Yeah. Yeah, they needed one more guy. Honestly, Derrick Rose would have helped that team so much. I don't understand why that didn't happen. Just one guy to create. It certainly wasn't Troy Daniels. Adios. At least they'll get Dion Waiters, just what that dude needs, to be able to move to Los Angeles, where edibles can be found everywhere. Oh my God. You're gonna find him on the bench one day, just being like, looking at the lights, looking at the seats. They're gonna set off like fireworks. It's gonna be some sort of like a Lakers show. He's going to freak out. Watch out! Watch out! Dion Waiters in LA going to be problematic. You heard it here first. Guys, hit that like button first and foremost. 620 viewers right now, only 85 likes. Unacceptable. We need that number north of 100 right now, so hit the thumbs up. It'll help us out tremendously. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when all of our content goes live. Coming up later today, 2:30 Eastern Time, Ben Rasa and Tim Frank doing the PGA Strategy Show. Now that I don't produce it, I have no idea what that actual tournament is called, but I promise you they're talking about golf. Jake will have the NHL Strategy Show at 4. Alex will have the game plan live stream in front of the paywall today, so you could see what you've been missing. That is at 4 p.m. as well. Adam will be back with Laffy on the deeper dive at 5 p.m. And then live before lock, Eddie and Emac closing you out, going all the way to 7:30 with the extra half hour for Super Draft. Not to mention, I did mention game plan stream live today in front of the paywall. NHL rankings also free. If you want to try to compete with newly minted NHL tout Adam Scherer, you can go ahead and grab those ranks.
We forgot the Reggie Jackson revenge game.
God, I forgot he was ever on Oklahoma City. Man, Oklahoma City runs through guards that I don't care about.
Joe Cheely signed his second 10-day contract with the Hornets. He will be available to screw up their rotation.
I already had him projected in.
Yeah, I know.
So when you're good at this, you're good at this. Clearly, I knew a lot about Joe Cheely. He looks like. Do you know what he looks like?
Zero idea.
I don't know if he's white or black. That much I could tell you.
I do now.
Okay, that's Joe Cheely. I was more picturing him looking like he would have played at Indiana in like 1994. And I think you know exactly what that guy looks like when I say that. Like, I don't know, like mildly like Steve Alford. So, not correct. Not correct. That's a fun game to play.
High school with Zach Greinke. I don't know why I knew that immediately.
Popka?
Yeah. Do you ever like click on the high schools on like the athletes Wikipedia pages, but like for the Florida and California high schools, like the notable alumni, it's just like a who's who of Hall of Fame like athletes.
Oh, constantly. The base, because I paid so much attention to like minor league baseball and prospects for years and years. The Florida high schools, I could probably go through a list of everybody that went to Bradenton.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like one high school has Zach Greinke, Brandon Merriweather, Warren Sapp, and like 8 other athletes I've heard of. My high school has a singer from NSYNC.
Wait, which one?
JC Chazé.
That's fun. That's really fun.
And we have an Olympics swimmer, and we have Kathy Lee Gifford as well. But still,
I don't have anything, man. We have nothing to hang our hat on. I don't even have a single person that I could potentially name. We barely have like ancillary people. Like someone that played in the NFL went to the Catholic school that is like associated with that is part my town, but other than that, it's still not my high school. Anyway, not important. Let's get back to it. 4 games to go. Denver Nuggets, Golden State Warriors, 15.5-point favorites for the Nugs. Golden State with 100.75 implied total, which is dead last on the slate. It's 4 points behind the Hornets. So if you're curious about how good Golden State is, they're not. We'll start on the Denver side. Guy I like the most here, 14% owned on FanDuel, 17 on DraftKings. He's actually not as owned as Nikola Jokic. I like Jamal Murray a lot. 6,900 on FanDuel, 6,700 on DraftKings. I think he's going a little underrepresented, and he should just roast Golden State. The defense is bad. I mean, I barely even know who half of these guys are. Not to mention, I do have Draymond Green in and Kevon Looney in. They could just as easily not play and make this team even worse. What do you want to do with Denver in what should be a blowout?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on Murray. I think that the salary is very affordable. It's something that Alex and I talked about the other day, and I feel like kind of goes overlooked with blowouts. When you're talking about the team that should be winning, it's not as big of a deal if they lose minutes because if they blow out the other team, they are scoring at a really efficient rate normally. Obviously, I guess in this game, there's a chance Golden State just only scores 60 points and it doesn't matter. But um, normally, you're getting more efficient minutes. So since you're using median projections, you don't have to account all that much for potentially losing minutes at the end of a blowout because they were more productive when they were on the floor. So someone like Jamal Murray, even if he only plays like 30 minutes because it's a blowout, that's still really appealing to me. And I would still expect him to produce similarly to his average, like 34 minutes. So I still think he looks really good. I think Jokic looks really good at only 9,400. Um, those two, I would say, are the main guys. You could certainly get to Will Barton as well. Don't mind, in some lineups taking, or in large field tournaments, I guess I should say, taking a shot on like a Plumlee or a Michael Porter, just hoping that they get extra run at the end of the game. But Murray and Jokic look like the main two to me.
I agree. I have Jokic 18th on DraftKings. He's my number 2 center. Those are the guys that I'm looking at the most. But yeah, Murray is just really popping. This Golden State team is a dumpster fire. So I'm hoping that Murray could just carve them up. On the Golden State side, no one in double digits in ownership. The most owned player is Draymond Green on FanDuel at 7%. He is 5,200. Don't even know if he's going to play or not. What do you want to do with Golden State? Is there anything of value here?
I mean, it obviously depends on the news because if those guys are out, then you're looking at like an 8-man rotation again.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible spot, but it's still just, minutes and pretty reasonable price tags here. Juan Toscano Anderson is still only 3,700.
I feel like I should order him at Olive Garden.
He's he's not very productive, but still getting minutes if those guys are out. Uh, you know, Bender is still 3,700 and potentially playing big minutes if they're out. I think a lot depends on that news because if Looney and Green are in, then the game as a whole really, or not the game, the team as a whole really isn't that appealing because you're going to be able to spread minutes out enough to where I'm not getting to these guys against Denver. But if they only have 8 bodies, then there's at least some value here.
Yeah, I don't anticipate getting anything until we get news, other than I'll probably have a little bit of Marquise Chris on FanDuel no matter what. He's 6K. Whether these guys are in or out, I don't think it really changes his bottom line and can only make it mildly better. But, man, this is a rough spot. This is a really, really bad basketball team.
I wish that, or I'm already ready for the DFS sites to treat this Golden State team like they were treating the Kings a year or two ago, where they just stopped putting their games on the slate.
Hopefully. What's really crazy is they're going to be like a projected top 4 seed in the West next year.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing how much different it's going to look. Oh, favorite play in this game?
Either Murray or Jokic. I guess Murray.
I'm also agreeing on Murray. Phoenix Suns, Toronto Raptors. Raptors 4-point favorites in Phoenix. Relatively normal matchup for the Suns other than just being against a quality team. Toronto's going to have a Q tag on Ibaka and Fred VanVleet. We'll start on the Suns side. DeAndre Ayton is my top center on FanDuel at 8,600. A little bit less enamored with this entire Suns team on DK. I would say Devin Booker is my number 1 option, but between him and Ayton, it's close. Booker, I like quite a bit for 7,500 on FanDuel. After that, it'll be a small amount of Rubio, small amount of Saric, maybe a little bit of Mikal Bridges on DK. Ayton is in the mid-20s in ownership on both sites. Booker, 21% on FanDuel, 12 on DK. How do you feel about Phoenix for today?
I agree with everything you said. Booker and Ayton look like the two. What did you say?
I said, of course you do.
Booker and Ayton look like the two main guys just because they play huge minutes. Usage is up a little bit for both of them since Oubre is out. Obviously not a good matchup against Toronto, but you're just talking about productive players that are around 1.2 DraftKings points per minute on average, playing 35, in Ayton's case, typically 35 plus minutes. Booker normally, 36, 37. So I think they both just look a little bit underpriced still, even though it's a tough matchup. But beyond that, there's not a whole lot. on DraftKings for me. Like Rubio, I think is priced where he should be at 7,200. Same goes for Bridges and Saric at 54 and 5,400 and 5K respectively. I'm not getting to a 4K Cameron Johnson. So it's basically just the two of Booker and Ayton.
Okay. I think we're on the same page there.
Ayton having power forward eligibility now on DraftKings for whatever reason is helpful as well.
That's just like waffling back and forth, isn't it?
Yeah,
it was just center
weird.
like 2 days ago, right?
Yeah, last game he was power forward, but prior to that he was only a center.
Okay.
It's weird because one thing they've been doing recently is cutting down on that and making a lot more guys center only, which has been nice because it just obviously makes it a little bit less of a being able to roster anyone you want.
Right.
So it's really weird that now you have him at power forward when he's clearly just playing center with Aaron Baines as his backup.
On the Raptors side, no one on DraftKings in double digits in ownership. Siakam, Lowry, and Van Vliet all essentially in the teens. Lowry, my favorite play here on FanDuel, my number 2 point guard. Van Vliet, if he plays at 6,200, also in play for me, although has not been good as of late. I will definitely be getting to Siakam. I will definitely be getting to Serge Ibaka on FanDuel if he is available to play. Those are really the only 4 guys that I'm looking at. Let's treat Toronto like those guys are in for right now, unless you specifically think one of them is going to be out.
Sorry, I was trying to figure out it. Remember earlier this year, Ayton and Baines were playing alongside each other a bunch?
Correct.
I was thinking that maybe this was a matchup where they would go back to that, but they actually played Toronto with Baines healthy on the 21st, and he still only played 11 minutes, so probably not.
I mean, if Gasol were healthy, I think it'd be more feasible.
Yeah. As far as Toronto goes, I think the pricing is pretty much where it should be. OG's DraftKings price tag has jumped all the way to 6,500, so I'm not going to be going there. Powell jumped up $1,400 to 5,700. Boucher and Hollis Jefferson are both reasonable values if Ibaka is out, but if he's in, then they aren't. If Van Vliet and Ibaka are in, there's nothing that looks that appealing to me from Toronto.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's only a FanDuel thing for me, but I have Siakam as my 9th ranked power forward. Serge Ibaka is 7th at center, power forward. Why can't I remember what position he plays right now? Power forward. Yeah, so gonna be hard to get to those guys. It's mostly just Lowry and Van Vliet. Favorite play in this game?
Booker or Ayton.
Okay.
I guess Booker.
Okay. Lakers and Sixers. This is not a great Sixers team, and when they lose tonight to the Lakers, that will officially throw the dirt on the grave of my mustache bet. I have a 1% chance now of winning out. They've lost, I believe, 6 straight, 8 straight on the road. What a disaster. Lakers are 12.5 point favorites at home. Anthony Davis potentially out. I have him in. He is 10-2 on FanDuel, 9,900 on DraftKings, so I'm certainly interested. 1.05x multiplier on SuperDraft also looks pretty good. Don't have much interest in anything from the Lakers that isn't AD or LeBron. And then on the Philly side, we're obviously going to be without Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Josh Richardson is in the concussion protocol, so he is out as well. So we're going to have a lot of goons to talk about. Hit me with the Lakers thoughts.
So Davis questionable obviously is huge news. If he's out, LeBron looks like a really good play. If Davis is in, less interested in LeBron because he is priced up and there's a ton of guys to get to on this slate that are cheaper. But without Davis on the floor this year, 1.5 DraftKings points per minute for LeBron, 35.5% usage rate. So he would look pretty good if Davis is out. You would probably get Kuzma starting again. He played 35 minutes against the Pels. If Davis is out, he looks good. You would get more minutes for the centers with McGee and Howard. 24 minutes from McGee, 22 from Howard last game. So if Davis is out, they both look pretty good at their prices. If Davis is in, all that stuff basically becomes irrelevant. And Davis would be like the guy that I'm interested in at only 9,900.
I hope AD plays. I just don't want to deal with like having to think about this team.
I hope we get the news because I don't feel like late swapping.
That is also true. I do hope we get the news. They certainly don't need him. Philly is gross, but yeah, this is a 2-horse race for me. And if AD ends up out, I take closer looks at Dwight, JaVale, and Keefe, maybe Kuzma, but I don't love the Kuzma price tag. 1.1 multiplier on Superdraft for LeBron. That is also pretty tasty. On the Philly side, here we go. Tobias Harris, Al Horford, Shake Milton, Alec Burks, all in double digits in ownership on FanDuel. Nobody higher than Al Horford at 23%. Harris, Horford, and Shake Milton all priced up on DraftKings, all in single digits, but Alec Burks 22% owned. Furkan Korkmaz 14% owned. I'm fine with Burks and Korkmaz as value options on DK. I have Tobias Harris and Al Horford both ranked 8th at their position on FanDuel, so I don't get the sense that I'm going to have a ton of the Sixers on FanDuel. And on DraftKings, I don't imagine I get to any of the main guys. What are you going to do with the Sixers here? Terrible spot, difficult defensive matchup, and they are missing everybody with a pulse.
Yeah, DraftKings priced them up pretty well too. You obviously would be interested in guys like Harris and Horford just being the entire offense basically, but they are at 8,200 and 7K respectively, so it makes them more secondary options than priorities. Shake Milton played 40 minutes last game. He's up to 6,300. I refuse to think that he is the second coming of Steph Curry as far as a three-point shooter goes, so I doubt I'll be getting to much of him. The minutes obviously are nice, but it's a tough matchup, and he's not going to shoot 80% for the rest of the season. So seems like he's a little bit overpriced, even given the minutes.
Yeah.
Korkmaz should get more run, but they still just have so many wings that can kind of cannibalize minutes from each other that the pricing and the matchup makes it really not that appealing for me.
Yeah, I get why people are going to get to Burks and Korkmaz just because you need to throw minutes at somebody in this mid-4s range. I honestly think that they're the things that I like the most on DK between both of these teams, and that's not an appealing feeling.
Right.
How do you feel about rules for this Philly team?
What'd you say?
How do you feel about rules for this Philly team?
A lot of max 2 type stuff, like max 2 of, I don't know, Milton, Robinson, Korkmaz. Or you probably don't need them because they're not going to project well enough that you're going to get tons of
it's true.
them together.
This is bad, man. Sixers are... This is not the way you want to be ramping up to the playoffs.
In the second half last game, so that was when Richardson was out, Mike Scott started the second half. You got Burks played the final 15 minutes of the half. Korkmaz played a total of 15 minutes. So, I mean, I guess you're expecting around 28 to 30 minutes a piece from Korkmaz and Burks.
I gave Burks 26 and Korkmaz 28.
Yeah.
I mean, we can obviously quibble there.
Yeah, no, I mean, that seems fine.
Yeah. Shake Milton, $16 on Yahoo. I do want to point that out.
Yeah, that's a good price there, just based on minutes.
Yeah. They're probably going to go out there and beat the Lakers now. Give me mild hope. Beat the Lakers with nobody. Sum it up. Favorite play in this game?
LeBron if Davis is out. Davis if Davis is in.
Okay. On FanDuel for me, it's Davis if Davis is in. And I don't know, Dwight Howard maybe if Davis is out on FanDuel.
I'll say actually if Davis is out, it might be $3,800 McGee over LeBron.
That's also true. Final game. We rarely do it in this order, but the Sacramento Kings and your Washington Wizards. They are 5.5-point underdogs in Sacramento. Pace up spot for the Kings. That should play directly into De'Aaron Fox's hands. I have both Fox and Hield ranked pretty highly on DK, but I like Harry Giles on FanDuel at 4,900 at 2% ownership. Not a guy that I want to get a ton of, but I'm going to at least take a look. B Jelly, 4,800 minimal ownership. Alex Len starting to get a little bit more run. He's at 10% ownership on FanDuel, 15 on DK. That feels high. Still no problems getting to Bogdanovich or Harrison Barnes. I think there's a lot to like here from Sacramento, although the prices on DraftKings are not nearly as appealing as the fact that Giles, Bielitsa, Bogdanovich, Barnes, and Bazemore, and Len all in the $4,000 range. They all basically have the same price. Only Heald and Fox are like north of 4,900. What do you want to do with the Kings against your Wiz?
I think it's a really tough spot because it's clearly a good matchup. Last game against Detroit, you got 20 minutes from Harry Giles. You got 28 from Alex Len. So clearly Len is not restricted anymore. The thing to point out, though, is that with the exception of Harrison Barnes, the entire starting unit for the Kings was benched 4.5 minutes into the game after the Pistons opened on an 18-1 run. So that inflated Len's minutes a little bit, but I do think that it's pretty likely you get something like a 24-24 split from Giles and Len now, barring foul trouble or something like that. So it makes them both have upside at their salaries, but it's tough to really rely on either one. I would prefer the cheaper of the two with a $4,300 Len. I agree with you, it's a good spot for Fox. His salaries come up to $8K. So I guess more of a secondary option than a priority. 5,500 for Heald. I think he has a ton of upside here. You're typically seeing around 26 minutes recently, which isn't great. For a while, even off the bench, you were able to get like 32 minutes from him. But even if you get like 26 minutes at 5,500 against the Wizards, that looks like a pretty solid price tag.
So do you think that the days of Bielitsa at the 5 are over?
Yes.
Okay. DraftKings pricing is tough today.
It really is.
Like, there is no one that just stands out to me, and that's why guys like Nerlens Noel are actually going to pop a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we'll probably also get like stupid news throughout the day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So who is your favorite King play? Fox?
Yeah, Fox and then Heald.
Okay, I agree on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's Fox for me at the top. Still some interest in $4,800 Bielitsa. That's just too cheap. Heald as well for $5,500 at least needs to be talked about. On the Wizards side, nobody is more than 5% owned. Bradley Beal is now 10-3 on FanDuel, 10-4 on DraftKings. I'm not so sure that I'd get a single Wizard.
I might still get some Beal.
Talk to me.
I mean,
give me your homer take.
I guess the problem is that there's not a lot of value on the slate. If value opens up, I'd be interested in Beal. Just because, it's not like you have Giannis or Luka or any of those guys at the top. It's really just the Lakers guys. But Beal's usage has just been through the roof since he came back from injury. He's driving more. And he plays big minutes. So I like Beal. I just don't know how easy it'll be to get to that salary because of the lack of value. Beyond that, I mean, you're getting pretty ugly center rotation now with everyone healthy. Pasek Sneaks was back. So last game against Golden State, you didn't get any Jan Mahinmi, but you got Pasek Sneaks playing 10 minutes in the second half. Thomas Bryant ended at 15 minutes. Mo Wagner played 11 minutes. Like it's just a mess right now with their rotation.
Yeah, I have no idea who to project but I know that I'm fairly confident that I don't want anybody anyway. So I kind of just stopped caring. As weird as it sounds.
4,800 Shabazz Napier seems okay, but still not like.
He'll stop looking okay at 6:00 compared to where he looks right now with no.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, he's the only guy that makes my DraftKings player pool.
$5,300 Rui, I don't hate, but again, it's just I think by 6:00 there's gonna be a lot better plays.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would have thought that I would have liked some Wizards here, but I do not. So favorite play in this game.
De'Aaron Fox.
There we go. It is also Fox for me. So let's sum it up. Favorite plays on DraftKings for today.
Ingram, Rozier, Zion, DeRozan, McGee. If we get news that Davis is sitting, I like Jamal Murray. Yeah, DraftKings is tough.
Whoa. On FanDuel, point guard, Terry Rozier, Kyle Lowry, De'Aaron Fox. Shooting guard, Drew Holiday, Fred VanVleet, Devin Booker. Small forward, Brandon Ingram, Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown, Gallo as well. Power forward is going to be AD, Zion. I don't know, maybe Josh Okogie? Power forward kind of Why is Josh Okogie a power forward?
I have no idea.
Josh Okogie is a $4,100 power forward on FanDuel today. How tall is he? 6'5"?
Around there.
Josh Okogie listed at 6'4". As a 6'4" shooting guard, he was not ranked by ESPN in the recruiting class. Noted power forward Josh Okogie looking viable.
Backup center on the Rockets.
Yeah. It'd be a new position. At center on FanDuel, Ayton, Jokic, Derek Favors. Guys, please hit that like button. 141 likes on 683 viewers. Let's bump it up a little bit. Let's at least get that number north of 150. We've got tons of content coming up throughout the rest of the day. Not to mention, those thumbs up are like the best way that you guys can help us. Really pushes us up in YouTube, so we would like it. But if YouTube's not your bag, you can find all of the shows that show up on YouTube on our podcast feed, the podcast platform of your choice. So go check it out. Adam, anything else?
I'll be back at 5 with Lofty to hopefully have more news and more value to talk about.
There you go, guys. Thank you for joining us. I will not be back, so check me out on Twitter where I'll update my contenders list throughout the day. Best of luck. We'll talk to you later.